Fire Punch is a manga which taps into so many themes and angles for content that attempting to make a singular video analyzing it and trying to explain what makes it so truly special would be effectively impossible. That being said, as my favourite manga of all time, it seems out of place to not talk about it on my channel, so I've reached a compromise that works for me. Instead of one large video on Fire Punch, I plan on making multiple long-form videos discussing various topics that Fire Punch covers, but going in depth on these topics, not only using Fire Punch, but also allowing myself to cover and compare with other works in order to really give a fleshed out interpretation on said topic. Let's begin with the topic that seems right as a starting point for this channel, given what it's dedicated to, that being the value of fiction. Fujimoto's position on the question, can fiction have real value, essentially bypasses the question entirely and instead poses a new question. What exactly is the implications of fiction's value? As a writer and creative, it makes sense that Fujimoto is so unequivocally on the side of fiction's value without question, but this doesn't prevent him from highlighting the futility in depending or valuing something that fundamentally does not exist. He does this through several avenues and mediums, the main ones being religion, cinema, and delusion. And while I myself am splitting these up into separate categories, what is important to understand is that within the story, the lines between the two are functionally non-existent. He doesn't put any of them above the other, and if anything, belittles them all equally. In terms of religion being regarded as fictional, while you may argue that your own real-life religion may not be fictional, the ruling theocracy of Behemdog is explicitly built on lies, so there's no real argument to be had. Also, I mean, objectively, not every religion can be the correct one, so let's go with the assumption that when I call religion fictitious, I mean every single religion besides the one you believe in. Behemdog shows us the use of fiction as a means of control and manipulation over a population. It's used to essentially justify any horrible action Judah deems as necessary for her people to survive. These actions include, but not limited to, looting, kidnapping, torture, murder, and forced birthing slaves. While this may seem like a condemnation and critique of religion from Fujimoto, what's important to understand is that without these actions, the human race would certainly be on the brink of extinction and unable to live the relatively safe lives Behemdog offers its people. Judah's actions, while irredeemable, are on a certain level necessary. Without the use of her religion, Judah would be unable to rally the people to her rule, excuse their immorality, or motivate them despite their tragic conditions. This concept also has historical merit as well. Think about being a peasant during the medieval times, under the impressive and inflexible feudal system that from top to bottom is designed to prevent anyone from ever escaping poverty and keep the kings and nobles on top. When questioning to yourself, why did it have to be this way? What difference is there between me and the king besides circumstance subject to change? The lie that was told, the fiction that was given, was that the king's ruling class, those above you, weren't there by chance or by their own manipulation. It was because they were chosen by God. This little lie, this fiction spun, was what allowed for thousands of years monarchies to rule without question or challenge. The existence of fiction is fundamentally something necessary to survive and create a functioning society. We see Fujimoto touch a little bit more on willing ignorance in Chainsaw Man, but that's focusing more on simple lies we tell ourselves than more grand narratives we tell each other to constitute fiction. The necessity of religion and fiction as a tool to control is surprisingly something universally agreed upon by most characters in Fire Punch. Every single character aware that Behemdog's religion is fake chooses either not to spread the truth or to actually keep up the lie in order to maintain civility and structure. As I implied before, it wouldn't make sense to criticize fiction as a tool for control, as fundamentally it's what any successful civilization is built on. Fujimoto instead highlights the cruelty of it while simultaneously showing every single reason why this cruelty is occurring and the consequences of it being stopped. What's interesting, however, and in my opinion one of the best scenes in Fire Punch, is when Judah's father, the founder of the religion and the de facto Christ figure of the entire society, on his deathbed, begs his daughter to tell him what God is telling her. This is the man who started the grift, buying into his own lie and finding comforts from the words of a God that he himself created. This moves us from fiction as a tool for control or justification to a comforting embrace and cling for hope. Judah's father knows for a fact that the God is fake, yet chooses to believe in him solely for the fact that it gives him comfort and peace before he dies. And while some may call this hypocritical, I don't see the reasoning for him not doing this. As Luna herself says in the final chapters, even without knowing exactly what she is praying to, praying with something in mind, no matter how vague or hypocritical, if it gives you comfort or value, that is what's important in the end. While God to Doma may just be an actor in a shitty 80s film, to everyone else he still represents all their hopes and dreams. And Doma's dark discovering, while harrowing and mind-breaking for him, doesn't change the reality of Judah's fiction, if that even makes any sense. When speaking on the use of fiction as a source of comfort, there's no better example than Sun and his undying admiration for Agni, Although unlike other religious figures shown, Sun's fundamental misunderstanding of Agni as a person becomes contentious and doesn't help Agni whatsoever. This leads us to the next modicum of fiction that Fujimoto presents, that being raw delusion. There's no other character in the story, hell, maybe in all of manga, that could be a better example of complete and utter dissociation with reality than Agni. Moments in which Agni is genuinely lucid are few and far between. In fact, you can argue it only lasts between him rescuing the slaves of Behendog and discovering Doma again. Agni's delusion is so powerful and outstanding, as it's so directly contradicted, false, and proven frankly insane over and over again. Yet despite being beaten over the head with reality so brutally, he still is able to create his own world in which things can finally go his way. Now this may be me inserting my own opinion, but personally, I find Agni in this state to be cowardly more than anything else. Without getting into it, Fire Punch is a story about not letting the world beat you. Yet Agni runs away from the fight instead of taking the world head on as he should, which is, more than a comfort, exactly the purpose fiction serves. As an escape, Agni uses it as an escape from his sister's death by raising Judah under her name. Togata uses it to escape his overbearing depression, and every citizen of Behendog uses it to escape the hopelessness they're truly in. A false reality that allows them to pretend that maybe things aren't as horrible as they truly are. But the truth about reality is that it always catches up. No matter how much anybody tries, at some point the truth of the situation will make itself clear. Not to say that fiction isn't inherently real in a sense. Fiction is what motivated Doma to kill Agni. It's the reason that Ice Witch wants to reheat the world, and it's the cause for Togata even seeking out Agni, to create a film based on his life and quest for revenge. Whether these things are real in the meta-contextual sense is effectively irrelevant, as whether or not they're real, their effect on the world is visible for anyone to see. Fujimoto makes a great point of this in his one-shot Goodbye Eri, which in most reviews you'll often see people gushing over how meta it is and attempting to analyze what's real and what's not. The actual point is the story is that it's all real, yet at the same time fake, because that's what a fictional story is. That's what cinema is. Cinema is a theme throughout Fujimoto's works, with multiple characters being centered around the concept. And while I'm not going to try to speak on Fujimoto's behalf and say why he personally loves cinema, I will try to convey what he himself has put into his works. Fujimoto's statements on cinema seem to come from the perspective of looking at film on an introspective level. Instead of asking how a film has affected the larger world, the way he does with religion, Fujimoto instead tends to focus on how a story affects and motivates characters on a personal level. A story can be so touching it makes a demon cry, so shocking it can leave you sick to your stomach, or from the creator's side, receive so much controversy it leads you to suicide. Film and its effect on people is seen on every level as a deeply personal matter, not only through the emotions it can cause, but also through the varying conclusions each individual can reach despite witnessing the very same pieces of media. Someone may watch a film and think it's horrible, while another may view it as life-changing. It's through someone's reaction to film that we see their soul and self. Essentially, fiction is a mirror we hold ourselves up to, one that can say everything about a person simply through their reception to fictional tales. Togata's final film at the end of Fire Punch was almost certainly unintelligible, mediocre garbage, at least in terms of competency on a scripting and filmmaking level. Yet when shown to Agni, a man with nothing left to live for, it gave him motivation to keep going. Why Togata's film caused this reaction, we can only speculate, but my personal takeaway is that when a person makes a film in Fujimoto's eyes, they are putting not only their soul, but everyone involved's entire essence into that product, which is why it allows us to touch us so deeply. What's also important with this sort of discussion is to pull back the curtain on the metafictional narrative and look at it on a real level. The points Fujimoto is making aren't some far-off concept. In fact, they're intrinsically combined with the manga due to the fact that the entire story of Fire Punch is in itself fiction. Without making this suddenly focused on me and my life, I think it's valuable for me to personally say that the story of Fire Punch, one that was written and drawn by Tatsuki Fujimoto with the help of his assistants Yuji Kaku, Tatsuya Endo, and Yukinobu Tatsu, has affected me on multiple levels, emotionally and psychologically. The message that Fire Punch proposes, that no matter what, you must continue on, even with no other reason presented to you besides the endeavor itself, has pushed and motivated me deeply and been my beacon to continue, even when psychologically I felt like there was no hope and that maybe I should give up. It's in the sense that even though it may not be a moving image, Fire Punch, as well as any other story that has touched you deeply, is still cinema using Fujimoto's definition. In the world of Western manga fans, we tend to lack a lot of empathy for the fellow human. Witnessing Togata's horrible struggle with gender dysphoria and being forced to live in a body he doesn't belong in might open them up to having more empathy to those going through the same issues in real life. I understand that many people read Fire Punch and simply don't get it. They see the shocking topics, crass dialogue, and assume Fire Punch's purpose is simply to come across as edgy, shocking, or funny, when in reality Fire Punch is without a doubt to me one of the most important manga I've had the honor of reading. Fiction's value, much like anything else, is in the eye of the beholder. It's not something that can be objectively measured, but rather agreed upon between others or even between oneself. To you, Fire Punch may just be that edgy manga with no direction Fujiboto made before perfecting his craft with Chainsaw Man. But to me, it's the peak of a man's career and one of the best examples of storytelling in all of manga, and for me personally, all of fiction. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I don't know when this is going to come out. I don't know. Like I said, I plan to do more Fire Punch videos, but I'm probably going to alternate because I want to make also... I know no one's going to watch these. I want to make videos that people will actually watch. Some will be One Piece related, some won't be. I want to make kind of more humorous videos. Maybe get back into power scaling. I know my power scaling videos actually get a lot of views. So I'll maybe do like Baki or something. I don't know. We'll see. Thanks for watching to the end, by the way. And